Building an attractive body is one of the best decisions you can make in your life. And if you're where I was a few years ago, unconfident, unassertive, and just overall unhappy with life and you're sick of it, investing in your body is going to massively improve that. So in today's video, I want to give you a simple 3-step framework you can plug and play into your own life to completely change the way you look forever. By the way, I'm Louie. I've been in the fitness scene for the last 7 years and I've experienced all stages of a physique, from fat to skinny fat, and now finally figuring it out. And I'm here to make sure you don't make the same mistakes I did. So the first step of the framework is starting with preparation. The reason 99% of guys don't stick to their training routines, they burn out, lose motivation, fall off, is because they miss this step. And by simply taking just a few minutes to mentally prepare, you'll massively improve your chance of success. So the first part of your preparation is your trade-offs. I want you to imagine here, this glass of water represents all of your time and energy. This first glass here is your work or school. The second glass here is relationships, so family or friendships. This third glass represents relaxation, entertainment, anything recreational. And this final glass here is our fitness. This line represents the amount of energy you need to invest in your fitness to actually see progress. The truth is, there are no solutions to your fitness, there's only trade-offs. You can't have the benefit of getting a good night's sleep without giving up some of those late night movies. You can't have the fulfillment of a lean physique if you're going out every weekend and having beers. So sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and list off everything you'd be willing to trade to achieve this goal of getting an attractive body. Are you gonna hit your 40th birthday and regret not finishing Game of Thrones season 8 or not building the body when you could? The second part of preparation is your North Star. Hundreds of years ago, before we had the convenience of Google Maps, our ancestors faced the brutal reality of if you got lost, you'd almost never find your way back home. Sailors and travelers crossing vast oceans or endless deserts had to rely solely on the stars above to guide them. But while other stars danced across the sky, one star stayed fixed, unmoving. This is known as the Polaris Star, also known as our North Star, and it became a lifeline for guiding men through treacherous times. You need to create your own North Star. This is essentially your guiding principle when you're faced with decisions that you didn't expect. It's a tool that can make those hard choices for you. For example, when I decided to fully commit to getting in shape, my North Star became the simple question of, does this get me closer to my goal? That question became my guiding principle when I was faced with FOMO or having to make a hard choice. If I got invited out and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go or not, I simply asked that question and it decided for me. Now don't look at this like your end-all be-all, but just another tool in your toolbox to make this process easier. The best North Stars are the ones that remind you of your ultimate goal when you feel lost in your fitness pursuits. The third pillar of preparation is your timeline. If you want to avoid burnout, then a timeline is essential. Here's a thought experiment. If I told you getting the dream body would take exactly 5 years from your first workout, do you think you'd get 1 year in and say, man, getting this physique is taking way longer than expected? No, you wouldn't. You'd say, well, I've done 1 year and I know I've got 4 more years to go. The problem with building your dream body is there's no set timeline. You don't know if it's going to take you 1 month or 1 year. Therefore, guys create some random timeline based on either other people's results or how long they think it's going to take, but their timeline might be so far away from reality that it's just unrealistic. And what do you think happens when the results don't come when you thought they would? You burn out. So here's what to do. Take your trade-offs and your North Star and decide on a timeline that you'll stick religiously to. Then take that timeline and triple it. I guarantee you're underestimating how long it's really going to take. If you're willing to make those sacrifices, follow your North Star and stick to your timeline, then here's the actions that'll build you the attractive body. So let's start with our diet, because most guys do dieting so well that it's actually wrong. Take me for example. Earlier this year, I did my first big weight loss cut in a long time. The goal was to get as lean as possible for a family holiday coming up. But because I hadn't been paying attention, I only left myself a month to get it done. And what's worse, I didn't take that extra hour just to sit down and make sure my calories and protein were in order. So while I did end up losing a decent amount of fat, I also suffered weeks of rubbish energy and I lost a significant amount of muscle mass. I just assumed I was getting enough protein because I was eating a bit of chicken here and I was having some oats over there. But it wasn't until I sat down and really went through it when I realized I was only having about 0.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, whereas the minimum you should to build or even maintain muscle is 0.8. Here's the truth. Nobody ever just stumbles into eating enough protein, ever. You have to intentionally make it happen. And if you want to lose weight while also building muscle, then you need to be eating enough protein. So here's the rule of thumb. 3 meals with at least 50 grams of protein each, and then you can have a 4th meal which is either a savory or a sweet treat. I guarantee if you prioritize hitting at least 50 grams of protein per meal, you'll not only make significant progress, but you'll also satisfy a lot of those hunger cravings. So let's talk about where guys go wrong. Most commonly, it's late at night. Guys will try and cut back on their calories by reducing their dinner size, but that only leaves them hungry late at night when they're sitting in front of the TV and the snacks are looking their best. The simple solution, although seems counterintuitive, is just eat more for dinner. Another big slip up is weekend takeouts. A couple of pizzas might not seem like a big deal, but all of a sudden you're 1,000 to 2,000 calories over and all of that dieting you did throughout the week is gone. My solution is just don't go to the fast food places. Something like sushi, kebabs, even nice whole proper burgers is going to give you way more protein, it's going to keep you full, and it's not going to mess up your calorie balance. And honestly, it's probably cheaper. A McDonald's combo these days is like 20 bucks. It's crazy. And the final big dieting slip up that guys usually make is buying their lunch during work break or smoko, what we call it. And the simple solution here is just bring something to work. Even something as simple as shredded chicken, a bit of mayo, and 2 slices of bread in a muesli bar is going to give you a good amount of protein and keep your energy levels high. And yeah, people might make smug comments about how you're trying to be healthy and how you're bringing the same old boring foods. The only way to win there is show up one day with massive arms and a massive chest, and then you don't even need to speak. Your hard work just speaks for you. So let's talk about exercise, because I know the question on everyone's mind. How much cardio should we be doing? We'll talk about cardio soon, but I think it's important to give credit to the real factor in building the attractive body: weight training. Weight training doesn't have to be complicated. So without overwhelming you, let me go through the essentials. Our program needs to have some variation of a vertical push to target the shoulders. So that could be a seated dumbbell press or a standing barbell press. We also need a horizontal push to target our chest. So that's our classic bench press or maybe an incline dumbbell press. For our back muscles, we want to have a horizontal pull. So that's our seated row or maybe a machine row. And we also want a vertical pull. So lat pull down or a pull up. We can build some serious muscle on our legs just doing some variation of squat. Barbell squat, I personally like the hack squat. And then we need to isolate our hamstrings, so that could be done with a lying leg curl or a seated hamstring curl. For our biceps, we need to do some variation of a bicep curl, either with dumbbells or barbell. And for the tricep, any sort of overhead tricep extension or tricep push down is going to be perfect. Now finally, the one exercise you need to spam is side lateral raises. That's going to target our side delt and give us that good bit of width. It doesn't matter what genetically you look like, building big shoulders is going to give you an attractive looking physique. So that's the essentials. Now I know I just went through a lot, so I'm going to flash a couple workouts on screen now. And if you want to get access to any of these workouts and actually put your own numbers in and watch some of the video guides that I've got attached, you can find it in the description down below. I'll send it over as part of that first email. Now let's talk cardio. Are we doing it? Nah. If you want a one-way ticket to not enjoying your gym experience, then go and spend 20 to 30 minutes walking on a treadmill. That shit is boring. I like to have fun, so I'm gonna be in the weights room getting a juicy pump, and I hope you'll join me. And hey, lifting weights gets the heart rate up anyway, so it's pretty much cardio. Alright, let's move on to sleep now because it's arguably the most important thing to focus on. You can train the hardest and eat the cleanest, but if you don't get a good night's sleep, then all of that effort just goes down the drain. Looking back at the darkest points in my life, it was usually a result of sleeping poorly. Continuous neglect of sleep would skyrocket my anxiety, demolish my motivation, and siphon my energy. and it was never something that was overly obvious. One morning you'd wake up and your eyes were a little bit heavier, then the next morning it was just that little bit harder to get out of bed, and slowly, morning after morning, your motivation to do the things you want just gets less and less, until every morning you're fighting with your alarm clock to get out of bed and you want nothing else but just to crash on the couch. So there's 2 habits I want you to prioritize for improving your sleep. Have you ever finished up for the night? You climb into bed, close your eyes, and you can just see colors and flashing lights, and it's super fast paced? That's because your brain is still stimulated from either playing on your phone moments before or watching TV. Until you increase the time from being on your phone to trying to get to bed, you'll continuously be stimulated and it will keep you up for longer. So here's what I want you to try. Take your phone charger, put it on the other side of the bedroom, and when you want to go to bed and start relaxing, put on a podcast or an audiobook, listen to that across the room, chuck it on sleep timer, and then give yourself 30 minutes to just relax, listen. You're still getting entertained, but you can just drift off without the lights and the stimulation. The second most important habit around sleep is actually done first thing in the morning. Essentially, if you're getting into bed at night and you just don't feel tired, this is the fix. And that's getting outside and getting some natural sunlight. I know this habit's been done to death, but the science doesn't lie. Getting outside and getting some sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning, even just for 5 to 10 minutes, it's gonna help regulate your internal body clock, which controls when you get tired. It also helps with your metabolism and improve your energy levels. I know this habit's been done to death, but the science doesn't lie. Try your hardest to prioritize these 2 habits, because I've had times in my life where I've thrown these habits out and it's seriously affected my energy and motivation. Alright, let's talk about maintaining, because I hardly ever hear people talk about this online, but it's vital to talk about if you want to continue to enjoy the perks of being fit, ideally for the rest of your life. Firstly, you need to understand that what you did to get from point A to point B isn't what you're going to do to get from point B to point C. What do I mean by this? You might have a few months, maybe even a few years, where you get totally obsessed with your fitness. Then something might come up, work, relationships, just life, and that means you've got to change your approach. And that could look like cutting some of your workouts back, changing your diet to accommodate, not being so strict in certain areas. The cool thing is, once you go through that action phase, you'll learn so much more about yourself and fitness than you ever knew before. And your ability to make decisions on the fly will be so much better. Which leads me on to the second point. The effort you've got to put in to maintain the muscle or the body isn't going to be anywhere near as the effort you've got to put in to build it. The science says keeping muscle only requires 1/3 of the stimulation, which means only having to do 1 or 2 workouts a week, not having to be so strict on your protein, but obviously still having a decent amount. And just be mindful not to entirely lose sight of the habits and routines that you've built. This was an overview of everything you need to do to build an attractive body, but majority of the guys actually slip up in the micro day-to-day habits. So in this video here, I cover the only habits you need to do in the day-to-day to make that action phase easier and faster. I'd recommend you check it out. Cheers, gents. See you later.